Good afternoon to one and all. We will be starting the webinar in a few minutes, but before we begin, dear participants, we would like to give you all some instructions. Once the webinar is over, we will be sending across a feedback form link on the Gmail ID and all of your email IDs. So kindly fill in the feedback form using the link provided in the mail. Participant certificates, the certificates will be provided to the participants by 15th of November. So please do not write to us before 15th for the participants participation certificates. We are extremely sorry for the technical glitch. We would be on the platform in a few minutes for students and the academicians and dietitians.
Yes, Tasneem, we can start now. Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar hosted by Nutrition Society of India Mumbai chapter on an exciting topic, food exchange list planning and execution. I, Dr. Neha Joshi, co-treasurer Mumbai chapter, going to host today's session along with our new young dynamic social media team member, Ms. Harshi. Have you ever wondered how exchange list is made, how to make disease-specific exchange list, and use it to plan diets specifically in compliance to RDA 2020? So here we are to answer all your queries. I now welcome Mrs. Anuradha Shekhar, Secretary, NSI Mumbai chapter, to moderate the session and introduce our guest speaker. I would also like to invite Tasneem, active social media member and visiting faculty College of Home Science, Nirmala Niketan, to co-moderate today's session. So without wasting any further time, I hand it over to you, Anu ma'am.
A very good afternoon, everyone here. And we are very, very thankful from NSI Mumbai chapter. I represent and thank you very much for the kind of overwhelming response that we received for this particular webinar. I know the need for having a common exchange list. And today we have a very, very eminent person who is going to be talking about that to us. But before we go into the webinar, I would like to briefly go through the kind of activities that NSI Mumbai chapter does. So NSI, somebody please help me put it on the PPT, please. So Nutrition Society of India, as you all know, was established in 1967, and it is an association of nutrition professionals, programmers, and policymakers from India and abroad. It is a recognized Indian representative of International Union Nutritional Sciences through the adhering body, Indian National Science Academy and Federation of Asian Societies of Nutrition. The society is dedicated to disseminate the results of the latest research, basic and applied aspects of nutrition. It analyzes the current status of nutrition programs in the country and recommends appropriate strategies to promote nutrition of the community at large. We are actively involved in various programs such as community outreach programs, where we do nutrition and health awareness and training programs with a lot of NGOs. We also disseminate scientific information, science seminars and conferences, and till date, we have about 45 plus seminars that we have organized, and the number is still going on increasing. We have many publications to the credit. We have developed training manuals. We also have nutrition awareness information content creators, and also booklets which we are formulating. In response to invitation from Ministry of Family Welfare, Government of India, we have published a book on indigenous nutritious recipes with their nutritional benefits. We have even compiled all the posts of year 2020, and both can be downloaded from our website. We also have lovely training modules in English and in Hindi, and we are actively participating and successfully doing online training programs in collaboration with reputed NGOs. One is 1000 Days, and we also have Foundation of Medical Research, Nourish India as well. So our efforts towards communication and evidence-based information has led to a lot of popularity for the kind of posts that we are generating, and our SM team has been very, very active and has done a lot of extensive work in this particular area. And you can see that on Facebook, we have so many likes and it's just increasing. So I urge all of you, and if you look at the kind of audience we have from various cities, we have India, Nepal, Bangladesh, UAE, USA, Pakistan, Philippines, United Kingdom, Canada, Kenya joining here to observe what our chapter is doing. And so I would again urge all of you to subscribe to our website and the number of videos that we have uploaded. We have wonderful collection of webinars on various lovely topics in nutrition, and it's definitely going to upgrade your skills. So I would wish all of you to see that very much. And this particular webinar is in commemoration of World Food Day, which has a theme of 2021, which says our actions are future, a better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life, which officially FAO has given us. So not taking much of your time, I would now introduce our speaker, who is an excellent teacher. Since I know him, and he has been a great help in our college as well, because he has drafted a lovely program on onco-nutrition, and we have been successfully, we have given it twice in our college, which is Dr. BMN College of Home Science. So he is a Vice President IAPEN, that stands for Indian Association of Parenteral and Enteral Nutrition India, Chairman IAPN Quality Award Selection Committee. He is an executive member IAPEN Dysphagia Core Group, President IAPEN in India Onco-Nutrition Core Group, member IDA Oncology Nutrition Special Interest Group. He's a program director, NICCE 2020, consultant, National Institute for Research in Reproductive Health. He's a member for ASPEN Global Nutrition Program and Multinational Association in Supportive Care in Cancer. Can you just go to the next one, please? Yeah. So his qualifications include PGD Dietetics as a postgraduate diploma in dietetics, hospital management and clinical nutrition, MSc in dietetics and nutrition, various certificate courses conducted by ESPEN, ADA, and ASPEN. Visiting faculty at Dr. BMN College and SVT College of Home Science. Then he has a lot of research papers and publications, several onco-nutrition publications, presented research papers at national as well as international level, to which some of which even I have heard, and I'm pretty impressed by the kind of knowledge that he has. Achievements: he won many awards in IDACon, NIN, CAN Rehab, and ICNC conferences. India's first dietitian to practice and popularize ERAS protocol in surgical and medical oncology. He has been a research guide for many dietetics, clinical nutritionists, and nutraceutical students. And I can tell you from the kind of feedback that I've had from my students, he is an excellent motivator and a lovely teacher, always at the, and makes sure that his students participate in all kinds of, take all kinds of opportunities. So I really thank him once again from the bottom of our hearts, Shiva sir, for accepting our invitation and being here to educate us about exchange lists, which is the need of the hour since RDA has changed and now we have to follow the different kind of a pattern. So let us now hear Shiva Shankar Timayan Party. So over to you. Thank you once again.
Thank you, ma'am, for those kind words. At the outset, I would like to thank Nutrition Society of India, NSI, Mumbai chapter, for inviting me for this event. Also, I would like to thank Shubhadra ma'am, Anuradha ma'am, Tasneem Purbi, and Neha and the entire Mumbai chapter members. Today's topic is slightly tough, in fact, I would say, and sometimes it might be controversial as well, because different people have different kind of having a judgment of reading the numbers. So there may be few things which people may agree or may not agree. This is my perspective, what I'm going to put across to the audience over here. Hopefully it will be well accepted. And I keep on saying sometimes, the exchange list is something like an experiment. You cannot have a perfect exchange list, but yes, we can work it out in a such a way that we are very close to the actual values of what has been recommended in IFCT tables. I have put the old one photographs over here and the new ones. You see the numbers of pages. Earlier it was 161 and it is now 536. The food items in the earlier was something around 350. Now it is 550, almost 200 more than the earlier one. Why am I mentioning about these numbers? I will, in the end of the presentation, I will refer these numbers again and you will come to know why these numbers are important for us. So what is an exchange list to begin with? I'll just try to remove this bar because it's blocking some of the items. So, yes, the exchange lists are a group of foods that contain roughly the same mix of carbohydrates, protein, fat, and calories. And along with the macronutrients, the same kind of food groups, the food items, we need to club it together so that it becomes very easy for us to plan a diet, calculate the nutrients to the most accurate way. But somehow, whatever we practiced maybe 2 decades back, we just were calculating only the macronutrients, the carbs, fats, and the calories, and the proteins. So thereafter, few colleges started calculating even sodium and I think even the potassium as well. So that was the progress what we have made in the last 1 or 2 decades. And maybe when the new IFCT book has come, it has created a lot of confusion among us. So is it really that confusing? If you ask me, I don't think it's actually a confusing thing. Yes, it has increased our work. Of course, their work has also increased by coming out with so many recommendations. So we need to actually complement their work over here. So I think that is where we need to put up slightly more effort in trying to understand those figures and trying to put it into our daily practice. As we are dietitians are always busy in planning and in the counseling the patients, we really cannot keep on having the calculators every time and keep on calculating each nutrient. That doesn't look good in front of patients as well. And not only that one, it's very time consuming also. So a lot of benefits are there when you have a good exchange list. And yes, of course, there are some disadvantages like possibility of measurement errors. There may be a exchange list which may not really complement the kind of figures what we come across in our exchange list and the actual numbers. Further, if you see the metabolism and absorption rates of any individuals are not being taken into considerations. So these are some of the areas where we really can go wrong in assessing our own calculations. So the good exchange list has to be a comprehensive and concise and accurate and easy to use. So a very difficult kind of terminologies, like it can be comprehensive also and it has to be concise also. So how it can happen like? So it's very difficult actually activity where you really need to understand all the figures and bring them together in the right kind of columns and the rows. Before we begin with those numbers, let us try to understand what kind of exchanges we use. The first thing is the spoons, cups, and glasses, what we use. We should be familiar with all these measurements. As today's audience, we have many of them are students. So that is why maybe most of my narrative will be kind of a basic kind of a thing. And that's the reason I say that you have to familiarize yourself with the number of and kind of spoons available in our kitchen the cooking area. Not only that, the hand measurements what we use. So till now, till now we keep on saying one handful of any grain will give you 30 grams of rice. Is it really right? So let us see whether it does your hand, the frame of your hand and the fingers has anything to do in altering those standard kind of a 30 grams of grains, what we call it as. So yes, there is. If you see the three hands which are shown on the screen, these three different hands, when they try to pick up the grain from the gunny bags or maybe from the vessel, definitely there will be changes in the amount of grains they are going to extract. So how, whether it, did we try practically? I'm going to show one slide on that as well. Thereafter, how much of grains can hold in your palm, and then there's some more measurements which are being spoken about, your thumb, which is almost equal to your spoon of 15 grams, and then you have the teaspoon which can count up to 5 grams. That is your thumbnail. So these are some of the very basic kind of hand measurements, but these things can go wrong because, as I said, if you see, every person's hand measurements can differ from each other depending upon the body frame. So this is the thing what we experimented just 3-4 days back with our own staff, Urbi and others. So you see the two girls who put their hands and removed the grains, one is having 21 grams, the other one is having 32 grams. Almost 30% difference is coming over there. Actually, if you see 21 grams and 32, 11 grams of difference, and that comprises to a 30% difference. If you're going to really tell them that you can take one handful of those grains and that would comprise of the 30 grams what we standard speak about. So we can go wrong in certain kind of things, and even our calculations can go wrong. So a very important point to be noted over here. If at all, if you would like to recommend a handful kind of a measurements, you really need to see whether the person is slightly overweight or the hand is swollen kind of a thing, or the fingers are short. The longer the finger, more grains they can hold. The shorter the finger, the less grains they will hold. So you can assess accordingly. You can say if when you see the fingers of the person, and if they have a shorter fingers, you can assume that they can pick up around 20 grams of grain, and someone having a longer finger can pick up something around more than 30 grams of a grain. One more measurement is how much is 1 gram. So again, every time in the kitchen we cannot measure over there, and the patient also cannot measure most of the time. So 4 pinch of salt, a reasonable pinch, I would say. Again, the pinches are going to be differing. Someone might take a thick pinch and someone might take a thin pinch. A reasonable pinch of 4 pinch will measure around 1 gram of salt. So this one more thing you can always keep it in mind. And a normal size of a glass, that is 300 ml, what you are seeing on the screen. And then the cups which are used for drinking tea, whether it's a paper cup or the ceramic one, that happens to be 150 ml. And if it's a mug, it will be around something around 200 to 300 ml. So it depends upon, again, the size over there. So whatever the mugs you get it in the flights, they are around almost 200 ml. And the fruit juices and the cold drinks, what you drink is around 300 ml. Then you have a small bowl, which is normally used in taking the grains in the vessels. So that actually is 100 ml. So that can comprise of around 50 to 60 grams of the grain. So 1 cup of that 100 ml will take around approximately 60 grams of any kind of a grain. Further, 1 cc, how much of drops would comprise to 1 ml. So normally speaking, it is, some website will tell you around 16 and some websites will tell you around 20 drops. So you can always count it between 16 to 20 ml comprising of 1 ml. So again, when it comes to the alcoholic drinks, then there is some, again, or you can see so many different kind of glasses. And all these people are very manipulative. They can, if you say 1 glass and the glass measurement, they can change on their own. So it's better that you always recommend these people with the ml rather than telling them with the glass measurements. We really need to know, okay, what is the 30 gram of chapati and roll, how it can look like, even the puri, or even maybe a paratha like. So this is what we did few days back again. So you can see the 30 gram. If you have a one normal dinner plate, how much of area it can cover. The thickness of the chapati is a normal thickness, what we normally eat at a normal home, but maybe slightly thinner than that one. In fact, I would say definitely if you compare it with the parathas, it will be 4 of such kind of chapatis of 30 grams will comprise of 1 parathas. So the thickness you can compare, the stuffed paratha I am talking about. So 45 grams you can see, and then the 60 grams what you see on the screen. So whenever you are going to plan the things or maybe counsel the patients or any person, in fact, I work in a hospital, so the patient word is more synonymous with me. I keep on narrating the word patient. So you can always consider as a patient and any kind of a individual as well. So the 60 gram of chapatis would really look like a normal chapati what the Maharashtrians and the a little bit of middle Indian people normally eat this kind of size. Whereas if you go to the northern side where the parathas are being normally consumed, that becomes a 45 grams, but the thickness varies over there. Again, it becomes a 60 grams. So this is how you can actually differentiate between, and the 30 grams is slightly bigger than the pulka, what the normally Gujaratis eat. So this is how you can really have it in your mind while counseling the patient or the person. And even the puri sizes, what you can see down there, what at home we make is of a 30 gram normally. And when you go to a hotel, normally you get the middle one, that is the 45 gram one. And when you go to a dhaba, then you get a bigger one, that is a 60 gram one. So this is how you can actually try to fix up certain kind of a measurements. Thereafter, 30 grams of all these grains, how much they might comprise of. It becomes very difficult to really understand. Many of the times, even after a few years of experience, it becomes very difficult to assess how much of 30 grams of rice raw look like and a cooked one would really look like. The 30 grams of 100 ml bowl, which I showed you previously, yeah, this last 100 ml bowl, if it is thickly made and it is almost near to the rim, that is 30 grams of any kind of dal has been used. So that way you can always have it in mind. The steps to make the exchange list, yes, first thing is, because IFTT actually has come out in kilojoules, the energy, we need to convert into kilocalories because we are more familiar to calories than the joules. So divide those figures by 4.18. Reduce the digits to the nearest round figure, whichever is the most possible, mathematically closest possible. But while making the final exchange, it won't be the mathematical rounding, but it will be the convenience rounding that I will be explaining you in the future slides. Separate food groups to cereals, pulses, milk products, meat, fish, chicken, fruits, and vegetables can be analyzed separately. Odd food items whose values are exorbitantly high or low, exclude them and put them as a separate entity. For example, in pulses, you cannot include soybean because soybean has a very high amount of fat and protein. So that is one item which cannot go with all the pulses and dals. So that is one example what I'm giving. And almost if you see, all food groups will have one or two such kind of items which are exorbitantly high or low compared to the average ratio of those nutrients. Organize food items to either 100 kilocalories per portion for your better understanding and better usage, or the other method is you can do is like 100 grams of edible portion you can use, but you have to remember the calories over there. So either of them you can plan it out. So whatever is more convenient for you. But the best thing is, like, if we have a standard kind of a thing throughout Pan India, that becomes very easy to understand and evaluate. Many of the times different institutes use different exchange lists, and when the students come to the different institutes, people keep on raising their eyebrows saying, how did you calculate so much of protein in such a kind of exchange? So this thing does happen. So I take this platform to appeal to all the institutes, as well as even I spoken to the RD board members as well, to come out with a common exchange list so that the students will also be on a same page. Like whether you belong to a different state or different cities, still you'll be using the same exchange list. Then you take the average of all nutrients of all food groups and enlist them. So these steps I'm going to show in only one food group, because every food group I cannot show then, because it's just a repetition of the methods. The first thing I said, change energy to kilocalories. So divide it by 4.18, and I start with the cereals. How we do it about the cereals, what they are known for providing energy, carbs, minerals, specifically the iron. The cereals ions normally differ from 19, 29, 27. So there's a lot of variety of numbers are being seen regarding the iron part. Then coming to the fiber, the recommendation is 40 grams of recommendation, which has been recommended in the latest RDA. So you need to remember that you start calculating the fiber as well, because fiber has been spoken very widely in protecting individuals from many of the diseases. So fiber has to be a compulsory calculation in your planning. So let us start with the cereals. When I took all these cereals into my table, I saw that there was so many different values in the same kind of nutrients. Let us start with the protein over here. You can see in the proteins of all these cereals, what we normally consume. So the ranges, they might range from 7.5 to 11.5. The difference is not that much because the average might be differing from 1.5 to 2 grams. But when it comes to the quinoa, I need to remove this bar. Can someone guide me? How can I remove this bar?
Sir, what do you want to remove?
There's a bar which comes down, no, with the options of your mute, stop video, on those. That bar I need to remove.
Oh, sir, that you just need to shift it on the top because you won't be able to completely stop it.
Okay, fine. I'll keep on shifting as and when it comes.
Yeah.
Thank you. So you can see the values of quinoa and the Rajgira, which is exorbitantly different from all other cereals. So it is around 14 grams of protein compared to someone who is having around 8 and 9 grams or 10 grams of protein. So I would better keep quinoa and Rajgira separately, and seeing that quinoa and Rajgira almost have similar amount of nutrients. If you see even the fat, something around 6, carbs almost around 55, energy again almost similar to 330 on an average, 200 of calcium and around 8 grams of milligrams of iron, and the fiber also, yeah, fiber is a differing over here. It's almost double in quinoa compared to the Rajgira. But when it comes to the phosphorus and potassium, again we have a difference. Can we have something to do with these three values so that I can combine quinoa and Rajgira, and also I can get an accurate value of phosphorus and potassium as well. I have considered for potassium and phosphorus over here. Actually, the sodium values went actually wrong. So that's why I removed the sodium values from the presentations. But maybe when I come out with the publication, you will be having all the sodium values as well. So the reason for including the potassium and phosphorus, as you all know, when we want to plan a diet for the renal patients, these are the two nutrients which are very important along with the fat and some other nutrients as well. So keep a homogeneity and to have only one kind of exchange list, or maybe I can have a annexure to my main exchange list. I can have a values which are put into the right rows and columns. So I did try to get these phosphorus and potassium values correspondingly to the food groups what I'm going to use it. So in a way, I want to say that what all exchange list till now we were making, they were actually containing only of the macronutrients, that is protein, fat, and carbs, but micronutrients were not considered so accurately. Again, we have to go back to the IFCT books and again try to hunt for those values. And first of all, to reaching that particular food item is a very tasky, because getting into those right kind of page and then searching for that particular kind of a food item, it normally takes a lot of time. Then searching your own values and then converting into the right kind of exchanges. So these all are very cumbersome methods. So I would like to have these micronutrients also in a way where I can use the normal exchange list. So I hope you people are getting that. The way I was using the macronutrients in the exchange list, I'm trying to get even the micronutrients also, which is very difficult to get it, because we know every food item will have a different range of micronutrients. But I have tried, I have attempted to bring it into a common kind of measurements. And if at all it is acceptable to the learned people who are also witnessing this event, I would better have the feedback from others as well, whether this method can be workable. I think even what the result I've got in experimenting these values were really encouraging. The first thing what I want to change is change all food items to 100 kilocalories. So we had the IFCT values for 100 grams of food item. Now I want to change for 100 calories, the same amount of food items, how much I need. So I have this average of cereals, what I took it from the previous one. This I took a average of all these cereals, took this total, then divided by number of items I used, and I got the figure over here. So the average is for 100 grams of cereals, I'm getting 9.3 grams of protein, around 1.5 fat, and 71 grams of carbs, with 7 grams of fiber and 343 calories. Now I want to calculate for 100 calories how much of cereal I would need. So this is what my calculation will be. So the first thing, okay. The cereal average, as I said, from 100 grams, I'm getting 9.1, 1.5 fat, 71 carbs, and almost 7 grams of fiber. So I need to calculate for 343 calories, you need 100 grams of rice. That is a cereal. So for 100 calories, how much of cereal or rice required? So just a simple method of cross multiplication. Nothing difficult in doing that one. When you do the cross multiplication, you get this value of 29.1 grams. So it means that 29.1 grams of cereal will give me 100 kilocalories. So now I got this figure of 29.1 gram for 100 kilocalories. Now this much of amount of cereal will give me how much of protein, fat, carbs, and fiber. This I have to calculate. The same method I will use. I won't repeat it over here. So again, 100 grams of cereal giving 9 grams of protein. So 29 grams of cereal will give me how much of protein? So again, cross multiplication. So you get this value of 2.6 grams. So I would better round it as 2.5 grams in the final representation. So similarly, I calculate fat, carbohydrate, and fiber. So my final cereal exchange come to 30 grams and giving that 2.5 grams of protein, 0.5 grams of fat, 21 grams of carbs, 2 grams of fiber, and 100 kilocalories. Now, when you come out with these figures, also try to remember that when you multiply protein into 4 kilocalories and carbs into 4 kilocalories and fat into 9 kilocalories, again, it has to come to near to 100. You will very rarely get the exact amount of 100. That doesn't matter. You might get something around between 85 to 105 or 110. That is acceptable because you are going to bring it down to a round figure. So that is why these three figure calculations may not 100% complement the final kilocalories numbers. So the cereals, finally, I worked it out. 30 grams of cereal giving 2.5 grams of protein and the following nutrients. Also, I calculated calcium, iron, phosphorus, and potassium. When I calculate potassium and phosphorus, but somehow if you see the average 193, 239, but when it converted to 58 and 72, I need to be quite sure that I'm very close to the actual values. So this is the area where I need to really work for that. Calcium and iron were not actually that difficult comparing to the phosphorus and potassium. I did take noodles over here because it is also has become almost a staple kind of a food item. So I have calculated, I have taken these values directly from the packets. So these values actually what you see of a 70 gram because one serving of noodles is a 70 gram. If someone is more comfortable calculating it as a 30 gram or 35 gram to complement the cereal exchange, they can do so. But I have taken it as a one serving over here. So that is why the calculations would differ from this one. If you change it to 30 grams, these values again will be almost similar to the cereal exchange. Then why keep this separately? Because the calories of the noodles, if you see 70 grams giving 300 calories, that is because the fat is already added over here. Whereas when you prepare the cereal preparation, again you are going to use it at least 10 to 15 ml of oil. So the calories of this preparation will come to around 190 or maybe 150. So that is why the calories will not complement the noodles exchange. So that is why I kept it separately. Secondly, even the fiber, if you see in noodles, it has been shown as 3.6. Of course, this has to be questioned, but that's a different matter. And the fat is 11, so which will not complement with the cereal exchange. So these are the two areas where we really cannot club noodles with the cereal exchange. Coming down to quinoa exchange and the rajgira, so 30 grams of both the items will give you 4 grams of protein. So we cannot really take quinoa with the cereal exchange because there's a difference of 1.5 grams of protein. If someone is going to eat 5 exchange or 6 exchange of cereals, you can just imagine around 8 to 9 grams of protein difference will come. So the day's diet protein exchange might go wrong over there. So the count may go wrong over there. So that is why it's better to keep quinoa out of cereal exchange. So fat is okay. Then okay, carbs are also very close to it. Fiber is very high over here. That is this second reason why I don't want quinoa to be clubbed with cereals. Then calcium and iron are also quite high compared to any other cereal exchanges. So quinoa is more nutritious compared to any other cereals. You can conclude like that. I tried to experiment in a more different way. So what I did, I tried to put rice and rice products. Rice products means rice flakes, rice, any other rice, the puffed rice and other things. I tried to put all these things in a separate exchange. And along with that, I did put wheat refined flour as well, maida, along with the rice products. The reason I will tell you when you will see the tables. I separated wheat and wheat products from the rice. I separated even the millets, and I separated even varagu and samai because they were also found to be not in contention with the measurements of rice, wheat, and millets. Then quinoa and rajgira I already explained. Maize tender is also again having a very low carbs, so that is why it was not able to being merged with any other of these cereal products. Noodles, as I already explained you. So when you see here rice and rice products with wheat flour refined, all these figures are almost similar from except for the maida, which is showing around 10 grams, but that doesn't matter because 8 and 9 are also accompanying. So there is the gap is not that huge in between these cereals. The fat contents are also very much similar, ranging from 0.5 to 1.5. Carbs are also very similar, ranging in the 70s. Calories also very similar, ranging into the 350 plus. That's it. Calcium, slight variations are there. Iron, slight variations are there. Fiber is almost near about same, except for the brown rice. Then you have phosphorus and potassium, which I'll talk separately. Similarly, the wheat, if you see, the proteins are almost similar compared to the rice ones. But I didn't consider the wheat refined flour just because of the proteins over here. The reasons are different. I'll explain you in a couple of minutes. The all other nutrients happen to be similar to each other over here. So that is why I separated wheat over here. Varagu and samai, again, as I said, I kept it separately. The reasons, you can see the fat content is slightly higher compared to the other cereals, and the other nutrients are okay. You can still merge with them. But over here, the calcium is slightly different compared to the rice over here. It's almost double of the rice. So that is why I didn't put varagu and maize with the samai with rice. And one of the biggest reason is the fiber content. You see the fiber content is almost 6.5 grams of fiber compared to the rice, which is almost an average is around 3 grams. So it's almost 100% more than the rice. So one more reason why varagu and samai should not be clubbed with rice over here. But when it comes to the wheat is still higher than the varagu and samai. Again, phosphorus and potassium, I'll talk later on. Okay. The other millets like jawar, ragi, bajra, maize, and barley, I separated it, and you can see the values again almost similar, except for the bajra, which has a very high fat content. But I still neglected the bajra because I don't want too many bifurcations, and bajra is not consumed so frequently, and it's not going to alter the fat content considerably when you take the average, because all others are almost around 2 and 2.5. So 3.7 is also there. So 5.5 can be accommodated. The other values stand to be almost similar except for the micronutrients. Then coming the maize, as I said, because of the carbs, you see it's very less carbohydrate, 11 grams carbs. So when you want to recommend it to our diabetic patients, so I think it becomes very handy. So this is one of the reason. Maybe, you know, even after this lecture also, many people will remember maize tender should be more commonly and frequently to be used rather than the other cereals because of less carbs, specifically for the diabetic people. So you get one more reason over here why I want to keep maize separately from the others as well. One more reason over here, even if you see the phosphorus and the potassium is considerably less than the other cereals. So even for the kidney patients also, I think I get inspired to really recommend maize to the CKD patients or even the end stage renal patients as well. So I took the average. So you can see the average is what I took. I'm flashing it again and again so that I can drag your concentrations right way. So when I converted it to the 30 grams, so these are the figures what I got. I don't want to keep on elaborating, just concentrate on the protein part over here. The rice is giving 2.5, whereas wheat is giving 4. Varago and Samay giving 3. And thereafter, the other millets are giving 3. So you can say these millets can be combined with Varago, but I didn't agree because of the reasons what I explained you earlier. And maize, noodles, and quinoa, which are already separated from the beginning. So this is my final exchange list for the cereals. So all are into the 30 grams except for the noodles. So the proteins are varying over here. Some might say ki just because of 1.5 grams of protein, why you would like to keep it so many different kind of exchanges. So what I would like to say is, let us try to be more perfectionist kind of a thing, or try to be more accurate in your planning. We don't want to practice the same way what we had practiced in the earlier decades. As the times are changing, we are getting better and better values through the better work done by the IFCT people. So we need to really compliment, as I said in the beginning. So let us also really think on, rather than going and shortening our work and shifting our focus from easing out work than to more perfection. So I'm giving more value to the perfection rather than easing out our work. Do we really need to remember all these serial segregations? Someone might really ask about this one. Yeah, how can I remember all these different kind of cereals? You can also take a clue from, no doctor always remembers all medicine names as well. So don't worry about it if you don't remember, but your work is more perfect. Secondly, as you keep on working, you'll start remembering. Within a month or 2 months, you're not going to remember. So you take some time. The more you work, the more you remember. These are all something like a mathematics. If you don't practice, you are not going to remember. So just the more you practice, the more you use it, the more you'll remember. Maybe when you are experienced for 2-3 years, all these values will be very much handy to you and you can remember very easily. Maybe we may not be using the exchange list in the future decade. Maybe you can come out with the apps which are already there. But we really come to know, if you don't really work on exchange list, you will really don't understand the hidden features of each food items. So that is why, rather than going for the apps, I would say you make your own exchange list. When you start making the exchange list, you learn so many things about the food items and you keep on surprising yourself. I didn't know so many things, when so many good things and bad things are existing in those many food items without being aware of it. And we are planning that ad and we are prescribing it to the normal people and even to the sick people as well. So there are few points what we need to remember over here is the ragi has least protein. Remember, even though we say that ragi is one of the most nutritious most nutritious cereal, but it has the least number of proteins. So that doesn't mean that ragi is not nutritious, but somewhere back of your mind, you have to remember these tips. All rice products and wheat refined flour are poor source of fiber. So that's the reason why refined wheat flour, I shifted it to the rice, so that you can remember always that if I'm giving more of rice and wheat, I may not be able to meet the fiber content of the day's requirement. Brown rice is a poor source of iron. We have a concept of understanding that brown rice may be rich in iron, but it is not like that. Quinoa is a good source of protein, fiber, calcium, and iron. Sago is the least nutritious among all the cereals. So this is the one thing which we eat on Upwas days. So a non-nutritious food we eat on those days. Finally, as I said, I was worried about the phosphorus and potassium. I'm coming to these points now over here. So I made this my final cereal exchange like this, a bifurcation of rice, of all kind of rice, that is brown rice, parboiled rice, puff rice, rice flakes, and the refined wheat flour. So I put it all this into one row. Thereafter, I have the wheat products, except for the maida. Then I had separated varagu and samai, and then millets and the barley, quinoa, rajgira, maize, and noodles. And you see the values over here. Of course, the proteins might differ over quinoa and rajgira, but when it comes to the other nutrients, you can have a better separation. Like carbs, if you see, the rice, wheat, and varagu and jawar, and the barley is giving 23 grams, whereas it comes to the quinoa and rajgira, almost around 6 grams of carbs are less over here. Along with that, if you see the fiber content, again, the fiber content of all other cereals differs over here, except for the wheat product. Wheat are rich in fiber, so this one would differ over here. So when you have a common exchange list, you say you have a fiber average of around 3 grams, and someone is eating 4 to 5 times rice, like in the breakfast also they have a rice item, lunch and dinner also they have a rice item. So 6 to 7 or 8 servings of rice item with 2 grams of fiber extra you are calculating. So that is the wrong thing what you are doing. So that is the reason why, because fiber is a very important nutrient now, as of now. So that is the reason why I'm giving more importance to fiber over here, to separate these cereals from the common cereals what earlier we used to calculate. Along with that one, if you want to, when you want to really calculate the micronutrients, as I said earlier, you have to go to the go back to the book, turn out those pages. It takes so much of time, search for that food nutrient, then search for those micronutrients also. And it's a very cumbersome method. So that is why I try to bring out the most closest. And these are the figures what I have mentioned over calcium. You see all these food items, the calcium is 4 milligrams, which is having a standard deviation of around less than 10%. So that is 0.4 differentiation you can come across. Similarly with the wheat products, which where the calcium is giving 8 milligrams. So when you really want to calculate all the micronutrients, you don't visit IFCT. You just take these values and see. I will show you a final calculation what we have done and how much of difference it comes to. So these are very narrowed figures what I have calculated. So these are the figures where you would like to even plan a diet for the renal patient, a kidney patient. You can imagine how easy your work has become now. So you really don't have to go on searching for the phosphorus and potassium levels. The other values also for quinoa, rajgira, and maize and other things are also calculated over here. So the cereals I have spoken in quite in length. The other food groups I will not speak in so length because the time, in the interest of the time as well. And again, there will be a repetition of the same. Okay, now coming to the dals and pulses. Why dals and pulses are important? So what we need to focus in these this food item is a protein, fiber, iron, and potassium. So these are the things which are more concerned with the dals and pulses. So when I plan my exchange list, I have to keep these 4 nutrients very much into my thought process. So this is the normal extraction from the IFCT. So this is the values what I got. So when I try to analyze on the whole all these pulses, I saw that the fiber content differ from 8 grams to 25 grams. So this is not acceptable. This is 3 times, almost a horse gram, which is giving you 8 grams. And if you have an average fiber, then you may go wrong by calculating the something around 15 grams, which might come as an average of a difference of almost 10 grams of fiber. So you might actually overestimate or might be underestimate the fiber calculations if you take the average. Similarly with the calcium and iron, if you can see the ranges, it is ranging from something 56 to 269 calcium in the dals and pulse category. Iron you can see ranging from 3.9 to 8.7. Similarly, the potassium something around 786 to 1400. So can we really come down again, try to compress these numbers into such a kind of a thing where most of these values will fall into the similar kind of ranges. So let us see what I tried was, I took the average and I took the dal exchange, which came to again 30 grams. The same process what I use for the cereals. I don't want to repeat over here. So these are the numbers what you see in the last row, dal pulse exchange. So this is what we normally actually practice, the last one. After the soybean we kept separate because of high content of protein and exorbitant high content of fat. So I didn't settle for the thing what we used to do earlier. That is this exchange. I really don't appreciate this one. So I worked out on those areas. So what I did, it's a very difficult task to really start with the thing. But once you really understand what these brackets mean and what these colors mean, what you need to do is you just have to focus on the colors and maybe some of the asterisk marks where you will see on the screen. So you don't have to really work too hard to understand what these numbers really mean to us. So here all those numbers which are falling into the brackets are the iron. So when you are planning the diet, you are getting the accurate iron content of these food items. So it is almost 100% correct values. So that is why you don't have to again open your IFCT book. Secondly, the macronutrient, I'm not telling you over here what we did earlier, almost the same thing we are getting over here. So 30 grams of exchange, we're giving 7 grams of protein, negligible amount of fat, and carbs 15 and calories 100. Soybean, slightly lesser than that, 25 grams, and protein, yes, 10 grams, and fat 5 grams, and 2.5 grams of carbs and 100 kilocalories. So when it comes to the fiber, again, what I did was, this row, horse gram, red gram, and green gram will give you 2.5 grams of fiber. What is the accuracy of this one? Again, 90% of the accuracy. Hardly 0.5 or 0.3 grams of fiber will differ from any of these three food items. Similarly, lentil, cowpea, and black gram dal will give you 3.5, and accordingly, all other food items will also give the corresponding values, what has been mentioned over here. So you have almost the exact value of the fibers which are appearing in the IFCT book. Thereafter, what about the calcium? So what I did was, I did all those falling into the 15 grams of milligrams of calcium range are into the green colors. So green gram, black gram, Bengal gram, and lentil will give you 15 mg of calcium. Similarly, the red ones, red gram cowpea will also give you 25 mg of calcium. And all other colors will also correspond to the similar colored food items. When it came to the phosphorus and potassium, yes, we can still work it out on that one. I didn't get the time to really go through each division of items of phosphorus and potassium. Broadly speaking, the average phosphorus of dals and pulses is 104. Then can I really go on the average content of phosphorus and potassium when it comes to the renal patient? No, we cannot. But to give you a fair idea, while planning a normal diet, you know that even if I'm taking phosphorus as the 104 as the average value, but the highest range is the 135. So you have a cushion over here to understand that I will not cross 135. I can select any of these dals and pulses. When it comes to the potassium, yes, the average value is 340, but the highest value is the 490. But yes, as I said, if we can really work out on these other figures as well, we will come out with the bifurcations of the phosphorus and potassium also less than 10% deviation from the IFCT values. Now we'll talk about the vegetables. Now, why vegetables are important? Fiber, potassium, calories. Again, we are going to focus on these three nutrients more. We all know we divide vegetables into A, B, C categories. So A, B, C, what you can see over here, how they have been classified because of the calorie content, where I have taken all those vegetables who fall into the average of 15 kilocalories. So all these vegetables, what you see, tinda, tomato, ridge gourd, bottle, they all fall into the average value of 15 kilocalories. Similarly, vegetable B will fall into the 25 kilocalories, and the vegetable C falls into the 75. So it is easy to remember. Vegetable A will give you 15 calories, vegetable B will give you 25, and then you get 75. Yes, fresh peas, we keep it separately because it gives 40 kilocalories, and because it has a high amount of protein. So that is the reason why we are not clubbing fresh peas with any other vegetables. Further, again, as I say, my more emphasis on fiber, phosphorus, and potassium as well. So when I clubbed all these vegetables into three different categories with the calorific values, but I was not comfortable with the fiber differentiation over here. The range, if you see, it is 1.6 to 3.5. It is almost more than double of Tinta giving 1.5 and bitter gourd giving you 3.5, almost 2 grams more than that one. Now every gram of fiber will count because you have to reach to the 40 grams of fiber which the RDA has recommended. So eating 40 grams of fiber is a huge challenge. So that is the reason we cannot have an average fiber content, and you cannot keep on visiting the IFCT to calculate the fiber. So to make it easy, what I have done is, again, I have clubbed. See, these three can be given 1.5 grams of fiber. This can give you 2 grams of fiber, and this group can give you around 3 grams of fiber. So similarly, here potassium also, if you see, there is a concern of certain vegetables of potassium as when it comes to the kidney patients, we all know how dangerous the potassium can be. So we normally tell them only regarding the green leafy vegetables, and you leach it and eat it. But I will talk about the leaching part also, how accurate we were in recommending the leaching. That also we will discuss. But over here, if you see, we never speak, or many of the dietitians never tell the non-coal and bitter gourd are also high in potassium, and they need to be chopped in the right way, and they have to be leached. So we fail to tell them. So these are the hidden figures where we overlook these vegetables and blindly recommend these vegetables, or we don't make the patient or the attendant conscious enough to exclude these vegetables or use it in the right way, how leaching has to be done. So that's the reason why the traditional kind of classification of vegetable A and B and C, I'm not comfortable. Why I'm going further in again dissecting these values over here. What explanation I gave over here, the same corresponds over here. So I won't repeat the same thing. Okay. How to remember? No, again, the biggest question is like to remember all the food items is a huge challenge. So what I can tell you is like, if you see all these vegetables fall into either these two shapes, a very simple thing. Either they are elongated and long, or they are round. So that way you can remember all these vegetables of this shape, only these two shapes will fall into the vegetable A category. Secondly, all these mixed size and mixed colors. So all these will fall into the B category. The third one is, yes, only two items are there, baby corn and plantain. So it's not very difficult for you to remember. Finally, the green peas, the fresh peas. So this is the traditional exchange list, what we were using. So should we settle for this one? Let us see. I will explain regarding the micronutrients later on. Let us come to the green leafy vegetables till then. The same reason over here, the fiber content. I want to focus on the fiber content. I don't want to settle with the macronutrients. The same leafy vegetables I would like to bifurcate along with the vegetables what I mentioned earlier. Here also I am keeping drumsticks separate from all other green leaves, because drumstick protein, if you can see, it's exorbitant, 6.5 grams compared to any other GLP. So the same way, I don't want to club this item along with the others. Okay. Now I want to work out over here. So I did had this drumstick separated and all other green leafy vegetables put into one group. So more specification is required. We will try to make it out. The vegetable A, what we spoke about in the previous slide. So the phosphorus average is around 30. The range is between 16 to 44. Even if you don't calculate the phosphorus, take the average, the phosphorus content during the CKD end stage where you would like to restrict phosphorus, you don't have to worry about vegetable A. Even the potassium content for 100 grams, it is on an average 115. But yes, knoll coal is the only and bitter gourd. These two vegetables have a very high content of potassium, that is 325. So or else you can use 115 figure for all other vegetables. So you are very safely planning a diet for the CKD patient without referring to the IFCT. Vegetable B group, over here if you see the green color lady's finger giving you 86 calcium and 122 cluster bean is giving. So the calcium content also you are getting a very good figure over here and almost as a accurate. If you really don't want to go into the specification of this and want to have an average of this, we can have the average of the first pumpkin, papaya and parvar giving you 23 calcium with a range of 15 to 56. Similarly, the potassium has been separated. All these pumpkin, papaya and parvar will give you 150. Cauliflower, French beans, brinjal, lady's finger and beans will give you 250. And onion stalk, cluster bean 300. Field beans and drumstick 400. So I would hesitate to take the last two food items, that is onion stalk, cluster beans, drumstick and field beans for a CKD patient. And maybe even if I would like to use, it has to be used in a very minimal quantity. In any way, drumstick and other things, we use it in a very less quantity, onion. So that way you can still accommodate these two vegetables. But field beans and cluster bean, we have to be very careful. Coming to baby corn and raw plantain, let us use the actual values because they are not many in number. So you have almost the perfect value of baby corn and raw plantain. The fiber for baby corn is 6 and raw plantain is 4. And similarly, potassium 260 for baby corn, raw plantain 400. Fresh peas, we have the exact values. In any way, we have kept it separately. When it comes to the green leafy vegetables, again the coloring method what I've used over here, you can see the brown ones, that is the cabbage and lettuce, will give 55 calcium, and spinach will give you 83 calcium. So similarly, all other color things corresponding values will be giving. They will be giving that much amount of calcium. When it comes to the potassium, I have used here the asterisk mark, hash, and the square over here. So you can relate it to the corresponding food item over here. Batwa, that is having a square, and colocasia leaves, it is also having a square. So these two will give you 400 mg of potassium. And the asterisk mark having those vegetables will give you 600, and hash will give you 280. So again, I would better go with the hash mark of the vegetables while planning the diet for a renal diet. I'm specifically repeating the renal ones because that is the most complicated ones. Of course, we have diabetic, but that can be eased out, but not for the renal. Drumsticks, again, no need of further explanation. It has its own values directly from the book. So the renal diet, as we are more concerned of the phosphorus buildup in the blood, and which can actually make your bones weaker by extracting the calcium. So remember these lines whenever you're using the exchange list. So this is the reason why where you want to focus on phosphorus and the calcium as well. So that is why when you want to really reduce now the potassium by leaching the leafy vegetables, this study what the states very please pay your attention to the lines what they have mentioned over here. Leaching alone did not significantly reduce levels of potassium or other minerals in tubers. They're talking about the tubers. Okay, boiling tuber cubes and shredded tubers decreased potassium level by 50% and 75%. So normally what we do, we cut them in cubes. We don't shred them. So when you cook them in cubes, so only 50% of the potassium is lost. So any item which is having around 400 or 500 or 600 mg of potassium, can you imagine only 50% is removed? It means almost 250 to 300 or 400 mg of potassium, you are still providing them. So we need to be very careful when we are talking about the leaching aspect as well. So what is the right kind of leaching that need to be understood? So can you shred all the vegetables, all the tubers to make, because our preparations are quite different. The kind of preparations we make, we Indians cook the tubers. We cannot keep on shredding all these tubers every time. So for us, it is not actually possible to remove 75% of the potassium. So just have to rethink whenever you are choosing any kind of these vegetables during counseling, or you have to be more conscious in explaining the patient in what way you can reduce the potassium content from the food item. Reduction in mineral amounts following boiling were observed for phosphorus, magnesium, sulfur, zinc, manganese, and iron. Yes, other minerals are also getting reduced over here during the leaching. There was no difference between leaching plus boiling treatment compared to only the boiling. So what we say, you leach it and you boil it, again throw away the water. So you mean to say that most of the things are gone. So when you compare with the boiling treatment, there is not much difference. You directly boil and remove, or you leach it first, you wash it thoroughly 2-3 times, then you boil it and again throw away the water. So there is not much difference between these two methods. This is what this study says about. Okay. So reducing potassium in vegetables, let us read these few lines again. Leaching is a process of soaking raw or frozen vegetables in water for at least 2 hours before cooking. We never tell these things to our patients. We just say ki wash, finely cut, wash it and throw away the water. But the exact process of leaching is really cumbersome. You have to soak it at least for 2 hours. Still a lot of potassium in the food is left after leaching. Wash and then cut the raw vegetables into thin slices. Vegetables with a skin, example potatoes, carrot, beet, rutabagas, should be peeled before slicing. Rinse the cut vegetables in warm water. Soak the vegetables for at least 2 hours or overnight. Use a large amount of unsalted warm water, approximately 10 parts water to 1 part of vegetables. Can you imagine, do we have such kind of vessels? 1 part of vegetable should be soaked in 10 parts of water. So you need almost the tubs what you use it in your washrooms. If possible, change the water every 4 hours. Drain the soaking water. Rinse the vegetables again with warm water. Cook vegetables as desired using a large amount of unsalted water, approximately 5 parts to 1 part vegetable. Drain the cooking water. Now you see the leaching is so complicated, and those vegetables like what we saw, the bitter gourd and the other vegetable. So when we fail to really counsel the patients and make them conscious, and we don't make them understand these vegetables should not be used, or even if at all it be used, this is a procedure what they have to follow. So in exchange list, you always remember to really separate such kind of vegetables, or else you have a totally different kind of exchange list made for the CKD patients. So over here, the vegetable exchange list as per the potassium content, I try to make a different list over here. If you want, you can have an annexure of this one, or you can use the previously what I spoke about. Here I calculated the gross values of potassium and the phosphorus. And if you want to have a more accurate kind of a thing, you can have an annexure to your exchange list with the potassium exchange list based on the potassium and phosphorus levels. The same kind of methods are used. I really don't want to repeat the same things. So you have this exchange list over here, and when you see the leaching, the process what has been mentioned earlier, all those vegetables, when you segregate them as per the potassium levels and the leaching what they do, how much of percentage of potassium they can remove. So you can have an idea of how much potassium is provided through your meal planning. So it's something which is having 317 mg of potassium. If only 25%, normally the kind of leaching what we recommend to our patients falls into this 25% category. To remove 50% or 75%, you saw it has to be either soaked overnight, or it has to be soaked in a 10 times of water. It has to be put. All those things people may not follow. So the 25% is the right value. What you can say during the leaching, this much of amount can be reduced from the raw vegetables. So these vegetables can help you in, these figures can help you in calculating the potassium and phosphorus values. Coming to the roots and vegetables, the same thing over here. I have separated radish, carrot, and beetroot, and I separated all other root vegetables into the one column. So the reason over here, the carbs content is very less. So when we tell to the patients or the diabetic people to avoid all root vegetables as a blanket statement, I think we should not be doing that one, because radish, carrot, and beetroot being a root vegetable still freely can be recommended. Yes, of course, the carrot's glycemic index is being questioned, but it's still below 50. So you can still go ahead and recommend all these 3 root vegetables freely to the diabetic patients as well. Also see that the fiber content is also really good in them. So we really don't have to restrict these vegetables. But when it comes to the others, they are almost equivalent to 1 insulin dose. So any 1 serving of potato, tapioca, lotus is almost equivalent to 1 insulin dose. So you have to be slightly careful over here when you would like to recommend it to the diabetic people. So that is the reason why I separated this from the other root vegetables. So I have this highlighted one, the final action list for the root vegetables in 2 categories. So this is the final list where radish, beet, and carrot put into 1 group. Potato still I've kept it separately because of the carb content over here compared to the other root vegetables, which are giving 5 grams of carbs more, and even the calories also much more than that. Finally, the fiber content, again coming to that one, that is almost 3 grams more than the potato. Potato gives very less amount of fibers, but all other root vegetables really give you around 4 grams of fiber. Even the radish, beet, and carrot almost gives you 4 grams of fiber. So in a way, you can remember a statement saying in root and tubers, except for potato, all root and vegetables, root and tuber vegetables will give you 4 grams of fiber. So that also you can remember to ease out your work. Of course, they are high in potassium, tapioca, lotus, and yam, and these root vegetables. Coming to fruits and the dried sweet fruits. So here this is a group which is a very complicated one when it comes to the fruits. A lot of exorbitant values are being seen. Very variable values are there. So any kind of composition of fruits categorization of exchange list will always be a questionable one. I did try to simplify the thing, but it became, I think, slightly more complicated than what has been used in the earlier decades, or even now also where we are using. But if you would like to see it to the perfection or coming close to the IFCT values, so the fruits have to be divided into A, B, C. Of course, the D was there, but I merged D with the C into the final list. And of course, the fruit E is there, and sweet dry fruits, which is a separate exchange list. Avocado, again, I didn't include in over here because of the fiber content, and the calories are very impressive over here to recommend it to any diabetic or calorie sensitive people. So where you would like to give a good amount of calories. And not only that one, it is a very high fat fruit, giving you good amount of omega-3 fatty acids. So you don't include avocado with any other fruits. So these are divided into the calorie values. So 18 calories over here, then 21, then thereafter, sorry, these are divided, these are categorized into 100 kilocalories, but I've changed the amount of fruits to be given to achieve the 100 kilocalories. So what I've done is, these are all bigger fruits, which normally people eat in higher quantity. Watermelon, muskmelon, and papaya, you normally eat in good quantity. You don't eat these things similar to an apple or a guava. So you can recommend these fruits in a higher amount. So if you can give 450 calories, then you can get around 100 kilocalories. Of course, everyone is not going to eat around 450 grams of fruits. You can always give a half exchange, or maybe a 1/4 exchange or 3/4 exchange. However, you are going to plan it according to your requirement. So the second is the 300 gram fruit, and then the 200 gram, and then you have 150. As I said, 150 and 200, I merged it thereafter. And the fruity, which will be 100 grams, giving you 100 kilocalories. So this is how the fruits I have divided, and the dried sweet fruits I have kept it separately. So this is the exchange what I got it over here. So by doing that, I realized that even the protein content goes on decreasing as I move from A to D. So from 4.5 to 3, 2, and 1.5. So this it makes me easy to remember the protein content in fruits A, B, C, D. And the dried fruits, almost no protein. Yes, of course, they give good calories. Also, I came across these values as you move from A to D, the minerals also goes on decreasing. So the decrease in these minerals also, if you see comparing to the going from A to D, the values also go on decreasing from A to D classifications. Avocado, as I said, keep it separate. Tamarind pulp, no need of discussion over here as of now. Okay. So yeah, in case if you would like to have a potassium content, because fruits is something where we think about the potassium more when we want to recommend to the CKD patients again. So what I did was I tried to again do a exchange list depending upon the potassium content. So I took those fruits which are falling below near about 100 mg of potassium, then thereafter 135. So these two food groups you can freely give it to the CKD patients. So how to remember, I try to come out with this terminology, Japrasam 100. So it means that all those fruits starting with these alphabets, you can give 100 grams. So if you can remember like this, my teacher, Dr. Shanta Devi, used to use such phrases. So I'm just trying to take some note from that, what the way she taught me. So this is the word I try to reframe. If you can frame it in a much better way by jumping the words, I will be happy to accept that one. If someone can do that and message me or mail me, I will definitely give you the credit also, and would like to put it across to the publications as well. So Japrasam 100 will give you 100 grams of fruits falling into these fruits can be recommended to the CKD patients freely. Over here, if you see the SCOM G75, means all these vegetables starting with these alphabets, 75 grams of this you can freely recommend it to the CKD patient. So now the CKD patient has a very wide variety of fruits available to them. Earlier, it was only the GAP3, if you remember, the GAP3 what we used to, guava, apple, pineapple, pear. So these are the things. Now we have to come slightly out of it. So if you remove 25%, that is the 75 grams of this vegetable, these fruits, will give you almost this value. So that is why if you can recommend these fruits with 75 grams, we can say you can freely take these fruits also every day, one serving of any of these fruit falling into the group. The dangers start coming over here with the blackberry, muskmelon, pomegranate. But still, if someone would like to have it, the BMP 50 grams, you can recommend. So once in a while, if they want to have 50 grams, being scared about the potassium content, doesn't matter, because 50 grams will give you hardly around 100 mg of potassium. So 100 mg of potassium is almost equivalent to the first group over here. So it's almost, again, you can have a buffer kind of a thing, like you can be at ease telling the CKD patient to you, still you can eat these fruits, but in a reduced quantity, that is 50 grams. So this is the fruit exchange list for the potassium content, what we spoke earlier now. So when it comes to the nuts, oil seeds, and coconut, fresh and dry. So what we have done is here is like all the almond, cashew nut, groundnuts, pistachio, walnut. This I put it into one group. So the averages, what you can see over here, I don't want to repeat the figures here, quote them again and again. The coconut fresh and dry, actually, if you see, if you take 25 grams of fresh and dry coconut as 15 grams, the values are almost similar, except for the calcium content. But the calcium is okay, 2 grams and 5 grams, you still don't have to worry about. Only the potassium content when it comes to 37 grams and 111. But still, you can freely still recommend it to the CKD patients, because 111, because we are not going to use every time dry coconuts. Once in a while it will be used. So restriction of coconut, dry coconut may not be recommended to the CKD if it is used rarely. So nuts and oil seeds, the final exchange list, considering the phosphorus and potassium, the corresponding colors will give you the corresponding values over here. And the coconut fresh and dry, I put it into a single column, only separating the phosphorus and the potassium content over here. Milk and milk products, you all know about it. I don't want to elaborate the same values what is there in the IFCT. I didn't work out except for the milk cow from 100 to 150 ml, which everyone knows about it. So I would skip this group over here. Egg also, now egg, the yellow and the white, yes, we have different values. So again, having 2 to 3 rows of eggs, like a whole egg, then white egg and yolk egg. So I put it into only one column, where white plus yolk. So all these figures plus signs will, the first figure will correspond to white, second figure will correspond to yolk. So these values are directly from the IFCT. So you are going to get the perfect values for that one. This is a very interesting group over here, slightly complicated, and maybe I would request slightly you to may be tired listening, but just pay more attention to this group, a very interesting one. When it comes to goat, sheep, chicken, and pork, what we are going to focus is protein, iron, calories, fat. Of course, here potassium and phosphorus, we are not going to consider that much, because we already know all non-vegetarian or high protein foods are always rich in potassium and phosphorus. So the importance we will be giving more to the protein, iron, calories, and fat only. This is what I collected the information from the IFCT. So when I put it, the commonly consumed meat portions, like the shoulder, chops, legs, and the liver part of all the sources, like sheep, goat, pork, and chicken. And when I put it across, I found that the liver of all these 3 animals, the values were almost identical. You see, protein 22, 20, 20, fat 5, 5, and 4. Then you have this 133, 126, and 116 calories. Calcium 6, 6, 6, iron 6, 6. Here it is differing, 21. Then you have phosphorus and potassium. They are also identical. 330, 336, 310. Potassium 280, 284, 280. So why not keep the liver as one exchange of a separate entity only, so that I'm very clear and I'm getting the accurate figures for the liver part when I want to calculate. The second thing is, whenever we plan the diet, only in the classrooms we use these meat portions, but in practical life we never tell to the patients oh, while planning, we don't specifically tell them how liver part will be different from the other meat portions or the organ meats. So this, if you have a separate column dedicated to the liver part, I think you will be having a better portions recommendations for the patients who are anemic. Yes, we all know the liver is rich in iron, but how much of iron it is giving, so that needs to be quantified. So that is the reason why I have taken all liver into the same group. So all these liver will be give you 100 grams will give you 20 calories, 20 protein, almost 4.5 fat, and 120 calories, 6 grams of calcium, 11 iron, 300 phosphorus, and 270 potassium. When I removed all the liver part, then I again saw that the shoulder of all these three animals are giving identical figures again over here. The same figures when they are repeating over here. So I thought of keep making a shoulder exchange list separately from the remaining part of the meat. So I have the goat, pork, and sheep shoulder giving you 20 grams of protein, 15 fat, 200 calories, and the remaining nutrients as mentioned here. Now what is remaining is chops, legs of all these three animals. Chicken we will speak now. So if you see the values again over here, many of the values of chops and the remaining part of the meat are almost again identical, 20, 20, 20. Over here, 7 and 7. But when it comes to the pork and chicken, so we need to separate these two meat portions, goat and sheep. They are almost a similar kind of animal. So if we can have a similar kind of values, this is how you can remember. I'm telling you, pork and chicken are different kind of animals. So their values might differ little bit from the goat and sheep. So if you see goat and sheep, all values are identical. 148, 142, 7722, 190, 190, 330, 330. Amazing. This is really a very unbelievable kind of figures what we came across. Now, when you compare with the pork and all the chicken meat, again, they are very identical. 20, 20 proteins, 15, 12 fat, 215 and 200 calories, calcium 9 and 20, not bad. Iron 1, 147, 188, again can be managed. 237 and 257, almost identical. So what we can do is like we can keep goat meat and sheep meat together, pork and chicken meat together. So here is the final calculation. The liver of all the animals are classified here, and the iron is mentioned in the colored corresponding colors. The same with goat and sheep chops and legs, goat, pork, sheep shoulders, and pork and chicken meat. I put it together. Earlier we used to keep chicken separately, meat separately. Then we used to have organ meats. So there were three groups. Now we have four groups, but the advantage is that we are having more perfect values from the compared to the previous ones. Regarding the potassium, what I've tried to do over here. So I try to segregate the potassium levels to the more perfect kind of a thing, like the asterisk mark of pork will be having 230 potassium, and the sheep shoulder will be having 250, and the chicken meat, the calcium is differing around 20, and all others are giving you 7 mg of calcium. So that if you can see these marks and look at the corresponding values, they are pertaining to that particular value for that particular organ meat. So that becomes easier for you for your calculations. Similarly, I work for the other parts as well. Now, when it comes to the organ meats, this is the last thing which is remaining. So if you see the goat brain and sheep brain, again, very identical figures. 14 grams of protein, 8 grams of fat, 125 calories, 10 grams of calcium, and even these figures are very similar to each other. Even the pork stomach also happens to be giving the same figures. If you see, almost 8, 131, 11. So what I did, the brain of goat and sheep and pork stomach, I put it into one group, and all the remaining organs, kidney, lung of all other three animals were put into the same group because they all are giving again the similar values. If you can see 3 grams, almost 90 here, near about 10, near about 7, so near about 200, near about 200. Again, these values are very amazing and almost perfect. These figures are almost perfect, 95% perfect to the IFCT. So what more if we can expect, like while planning the diet, how much of time you can save while planning the diet, where we used to take around 1.5 to 2 hours in the classrooms. I think you will need hardly around 30 minutes now, maximum. The first few days you may need a little bit of more time, but once you understand how they have been segregated, and once you use it for 4 to 5 times, everything, every corresponding organ meats or maybe particular vegetables and fruits, you will try to relate to the kind of groups they are belonging. So finally, I put brain and stomach in one column and all other organ meats into the final column. So this is my final exchange, organ meats and the brain stomach. So giving you corresponding values. When it comes to the fishes, so the same kind of classification, what has been done. So the fat content over here, I've seen some exchange list where pomfret, black and white and catfish, because they give high amount of fat, they are clubbed with the oily fishes like sardine, salmon and ilsa. But I have not done so over here. Even though the fat content is very high and almost we are tempted to put these 3 fishes into the oily fishes. The reason why I didn't put, because the fat of these 3 fishes are not of that good fat, that is omega-3 fatty acids, what we call it as. The omega-3 fatty acids are rich in sardine, salmon and ilsa. Now, when you really want to talk about the oil, the fat content in fish, you would like to relate it to the omega-3. So you should not get misled while planning the diet and calculating the omega-3, which is again one of the primary importance in planning the diet. Nowadays, we need to calculate even the omega-3, omega-6 ratio for getting the right values during the diet planning. So if you get pomfret and catfish into this group, your omega-3 value go haywire and you will struggle in to meet the ALA or omega-3 values into your final calculations. So that is the reason why these 3 fishes I have put it into the normal category and not added it to the oily fishes over here. So the exchange list happens to be like this: the shell fishes, the normal, all other fishes, and we have the oily fishes, but not these oily fishes, catfish and black and white I have not included. So these oily fishes normally give a good amount of fat also and good amount of calories also and good amount of omega-3 fatty acids as well. So that is why it's always reasonable to keep them separate. So this is our final values with given. If you want more perfect potassium, phosphorus and potassium values, so corresponding signs you can see and take these values directly. Even the colored values of calcium, you can take it correspondingly. The same all other categories as well. So we are almost nearing it to the end of the presentation. So I'm just giving an hope if you all are tired. So can we have something differently made for the diabetic patients? Yes, of course you can make. I won't take much time into this one because it will be too much of the things to take up. If someone really wants to work out on the carbohydrate content, make it as a base for the exchange list. So it becomes very easy for while calculating the insulin, the patients who are on insulin, or if you would like to have the proper segregation of carbohydrates into your diets, that is 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So for that purpose, your carbohydrate value based exchange list will come very handy. So you can have a exchange list specifically designed for the diabetic people, depending upon the carbohydrate content. There 15 grams of carbs, you can take it as an exchange. Why 15 grams? Because normally 15 grams of carbs corresponds to 1 unit of insulin. So you go on multiplying the carbs, like 30 carbs, 2 shots of insulin. Or you have 45, you have 3 units of insulin. So that is why taking 15 grams of carbs as a base value for the exchange will be very helpful for the planning of the diet for the diabetic patients. So once we have the exchange list, how we use it? Yes, of course, while planning the diet, you put all the food groups and how much of exchange you are going to use it, and you have to calculate the energy, what is your energy requirement and the protein requirement. and correspondingly you go on using the amount of exchanges you require. So you here we have used 5.5 exchange of cereals, 2 exchange of pearls, 1 exchange of egg, 1 exchange of nuts and oil seeds. So all these values we will be putting it over here. The corresponding values of other macronutrients and micronutrients also we can put it across, and then we calculate. Then my desired what I want, 1800 calories, 2000 calories. Accordingly, I can go on exchange increasing or decreasing the food items to meet the protein requirement and the calorie requirement. These are the primary requirements. Thereafter, you have to think about the other micronutrients, like if you would like to calculate even the iron and fiber or the calcium. And how you distribute, then you have all the meals of the day put across over here, and the food groups put it across over here to the left side, and the number of exchanges collectively what you have taken, and these exchanges you are going to distribute throughout the day. How much of exchange you will give it for breakfast, for lunch, for evening snacks, and for dinner. That is how you are going to distribute it over here. And after distribution, when you plan the diet, this is how you are going to use all those numericals what we worked out in the last 1 hour. So these values will be put into the respective columns, and then a final calculation will be done. This I'm using of my own intern who had done a case study presentation. So that's why it looks more elegant. When you people work as a student and put it across nicely, it looks very good. So this is the one workout which we did with our intern yesterday night, yesterday evening, in fact, and today morning also they did workout. And the first is the column. What you see, the new one is this is the exchange list. What I proposed to you now, and these are the actual values of the IFCT values. And we wanted to know what are the difference, how much of difference we came across. If you see the iron content, I achieved around 14 grams over here. Here, the actual IFCT values came to 17 grams. When it comes to the potassium, almost 3000 we calculated, and the IFCT values were also almost around 3000 mgs. And when it came to phosphorus, almost identical, 1330 and 1370. Amazing figures. So close they are. So it's almost 95 to 99% you are accurate in your. So by using such kind of exchange list, you don't need IFCT thereafter. It is only for the references you can use it, not for the daily uses. Same goes with the calcium. The calcium values over here look to be deferred over here. It needs to be rechecked, and there may be some things where, like poha, where you see the actual value is 8 and our value is 23. There are some mistakes might have happened, so that needs to be corrected. Or else even these values are almost identical. I didn't verify before I put it across because I didn't have the time. But I'm quite sure even these values are very identical to each other, similar to the phosphorus, potassium, and iron. So finally, the food exchange list in practice, it can be a regional based as well. So while making the exchange list, suppose if certain food items which I mentioned in my groups, which are not used in your region, say in Kerala, you are not going to use the batwa leafy vegetable, which is grown in only in the northern part of India. So you can remove such kind of food items which are not available in your region, so that you again go to the more perfect values to your average value when you take it out. So that way also you can experiment it. Food habits also, like vegetarian, non-vegetarian, vegans also, you can sort it out if you want to make a different kind of a exchange list based on the vegetarian or the vegan kind of a thing. And see what locally food things are available. Just to make an exchange list, don't keep on including all the food items what is printed in IFCT. What is the most consumed food items in your practice and in your region? Only include those food items. You can do with the disease or the clinical condition based, like anemic renal or thalassemia kind of a thing. Particular nutrient based, like carbohydrate, GI, etc. Finally, this is the last slide. Tips to remember. So all these things we did work out, but while you are working out on these things, there are certain things which come to your mindset and makes a mark over there. So what are those? I know everything overnight you cannot remember. As I said, this is something like a mathematics. You keep on practicing, then only you can remember. All rice are poor in iron. Quinoa and bajra are rich. and all others are moderate. All rice are poor in micronutrients. Remember these things. When it comes to the rice is not actually a very nutritious food item, but reasonably it's okay. Only for the calories sake, you can think like that. Whole pulses give you more fiber and calcium, almost 100% more than the dals. Remember these words. The fiber and calcium content in dals, how much it is, the whole pulses will give you double than that. Vegetable A are either long or round. Vegetable B are of mixed shape. Almost all beans are in this group and very big vegetable also. And vegetable C have only two, that is raw banana and baby corn. In root vegetables, potato has least fiber and less calories. Others give you 4 grams of fiber. Remember this again. Root and tubers are high in potassium. So while recommending to the CKD patient, remember this. ABCD vegetables are rich in fiber. What are those? ABCD. Whenever you want to which vegetables are rich in fiber, how you can remember? Remember just ABCD. What does that mean? A for amaranth leaves, B for batua, C for colocasia, D for drumstick leaves. So ABCD vegetables are rich in fiber. Of all green leafy vegetables, cabbage is the least nutrient dense. It is not at all nutritious. So cabbage, while planning the diets, remember cabbage is more of a decorative kind of a thing rather than a nutritious kind of a thing. And drumstick leaves is the most dense. They both are very opposite, cabbage and drumstick. The values of different color food items have almost the same nutrients, like radish, white, red, banana, red, green, yellow, potato, big, small, brown, pink. Like when you read IFCT values, you'll see rajma like brown, red, white. So those variants when they come of any food items, like you have apple, which are apple big is there, apple green is there, apple small is there. So such kind of variations when you come across, the nutrient values, even they differ in the descriptions, the nutrient values are almost similar. So you don't worry about what happened that the apple with the green value is different from the apple, the big apple or the small apple. So you don't have to worry about that one. All three apples will have the similar values over there. Even the potato, you have big potatoes, small potatoes, brown potatoes, and pink potatoes. All different type of potatoes have similar values of nutrient density. So you don't have to worry about. So don't describe all those extra things into your exchange list. Have different exchange lists for different diseases if you can. Nuts and oil seeds are poor in iron. Most of the times we think that nuts and oil seeds are very rich in iron. No, they are not like that. Whereas sweet dry fruits are rich. So dry fruits and dry sweet fruits differentiate when it comes to iron. Soybean has very less carbohydrate and very high potassium. Poultry, sheep, liver, goat, kidney, liver, lungs, and goat and spleen. All these things are clubbed together for similar kind of values, what I described in those respective slides. Shellfishes are low in potassium and phosphorus. So can we think shellfishes can be given freely to the renal patients because they are high in proteins as well. So we have that concept. All high protein foods are also high in phosphorus. So here we get a clue over here. Shellfishes to non-vegetarian CKD patients can be recommended more liberally. Organ meats other than the brain and stomach have less fat and moderate phosphorus and potassium. Thank you. And an earnest request from everyone, if at all, if you come across any kind of numerological errors, please mail to the email ID what I mentioned. The possibilities are there. There may be some errors because, as I said, it's still an experimental kind of a thing. So to finalize it, I have to revisit it again and again. So the certain numbers might go wrong. If you come across, don't hesitate to inform me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shiva sir, for that an extensive I think you have read the IICT book completely. I think everybody is definitely feeling great that you could read it so thoroughly and come up with such an extensive exchange list. Many of our students are also getting a little, I think, feeling a little overwhelmed that the list is a little complex for them to understand at this particular juncture. But what you have done is excellent, and my congratulations to the amount of effort that you have put in to try and make the life of the budding nutritionists, dietitians' lives much, much easier tomorrow. It might be overwhelming right now to understand each and everything that you have said, but I'm sure in the long run, and there are people who are asking, is there a published paper on, or an online PDF available on these exchanges? Would really like to have a proper copy. So we would like to announce that Sir is planning to come up with his booklet or a book, which he is going to publish very soon. And we wish you all the luck. And I hope it'll be, I think it'll be like a Bible for each nutritionist to keep it. There are a few questions which some of the students have asked. One is, sir, the carbohydrate content of wheat is less, but the fiber content is 4 grams. For a patient with both diabetes and gastrointestinal disease, what would you suggest?
What kind of gastrointestinal disease they might have? So it depends upon the kind of disease we are addressing it to. So if it has something to do with the phytates, if it has something to do with the gluten, if it has something to do with the fibers, so you cannot make a blanket statement over here. So you need to really understand the clinical condition, then come out with a solution for that. But yes, we are getting a good amount of information available to us. So accordingly, we can either restrict or recommend certain things more. So the clinical condition has to be elaborated more.
So the second question is, how much deviation from recommended values in terms of macros are considered acceptable?
As I started with saying that I was looking out for a more perfection kind of a thing, a deviation not more than 10% should not be acceptable. This is what my personal this thing, because the more deviation we go across and the more and more grossly mistaken numbers we get it. So the values mentioned over here in my exchange list are falling within those 10% of deviations. So that is why it is more acceptable. I will just take a moment to share the final exchange list, how it will look like, because when you see all those slides, you get more confused. When you have a single sheet of exchange list, it becomes more handy. Actually, I forgot to share that one.
Yeah, that would be very interesting.
To start with, when we see all these new new framing of the exchange list, you feel slightly complicated. I agree with that one. But as you keep on using that one, once you become familiar to the terminologies, the colors, and the signs, what has been used over here, is the list visible, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes.
sir. But it is slightly
I
very
will try. Yeah.
small right now. Yeah, yeah, it is. Yes. So what you have given us, you have put it in just one sheet of paper.
Yeah. So this is just a one sheet. So entire IFCT is available to you now. So you don't
Yes.
have to, you actually, I forgot to put the sodium levels over here. So once the
Yes,
sodium
sir.
levels are put, I think the list will be complete. So
Okay.
here you have all the values near to 95% of the accuracy. So as I
Yeah.
said, so you, all these values won't be that scary. Yes, remembering everything will be a tough task. I agree with that one. But in any way, if you want to be more perfect or more clinical in your practice, you need to have more accurate values for your practices. So even I included all your the mushrooms, and thereafter even
Yeah.
kind of drinks normally people consume. So a comprehensive kind of exchange list, what you can utilize it.
So I have a personal question, and I'll request Tasneem to take over from here. My personal question is, nowadays foods are being fortified. Quite a lot of foods are fortified. So as a dietitian or a nutritionist, doesn't that become a little more scarier for us to plan diets and even telling our patients regarding the levels of added nutrients which are there in many of the breakfast cereals? You name it, there are there. A lot of fortified cereals are coming. So what would your advice be on that particular note?
See, now we have the, as I showed in the first slide, where we came from 350 food items to 550 food items. That is the reason why I showed those numbers. Now we cannot have only those 12, 15 rows of exchange list and go on practicing the way we had done for the last so many years. Even the coming decades and many more years, we will be coming out with more and more challenges. As you said, now more fortified foods are going to come up. Then how we are going to really use the exchange list? So it's very premature to really talk about that one. If at all, what I can say is, if you know what food item has been fortified with what nutrient content, so then again your action list will be changed accordingly. So here I have not used the biscuits, breads, and other food items as well, because the list will be endless. So of course we need to really adhere to the majorly consumed food items. At least as of now, what we can do is, suppose once in a while if you are going to eat noodles, so that has no meaning at all. But every the second, third day you are going to eat noodles, then that happens to be a those values need to be concerned in your planning. So what kind of fortification you are talking about, and what kind of patient you are dealing or person you are dealing with, you have to take it into consideration. As of now, we have to still wait for that, and let us see how we can really meet those challenges in the coming few days or years.
Thank you so much. Tasneem, can you take over?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, sir, for an enlightening webinar on exchange list. You've supported your talk with such practical tips and examples, and you have thoroughly studied the IFCT book, which is commendable. I'm sure the participants now are aware how to work with the exchange list. So thank you very much, sir. There are a couple of questions which I would like to ask from from the point of view of participants. So in the exchange list, we can see that calcium, iron, phosphorus, and potassium values have been calculated. However, sir, what is your take on the bioavailability of these micronutrients? Because we know that there are various factors which hinders the absorption of these micronutrients. For that matter, even dietary fiber, hinders to some extent. So how would you take that?
I did mention in the first slide itself, there are few disadvantages.
Yes.
So those disadvantages, it's very difficult to overcome. The metabolic rate or the bioavailability of or intrinsic factors. So these are the few things which will always be lingering. So we really cannot take into those considerations. At the most, the idea is to take it into consideration while recommendation, rather than, of course, if I know if this particular kind of a person sitting across to me for the counseling session might have certain kind of problems where I need to recommend certain food items or nutrients more than the recommendations because of some intrinsic factors or because of some bioavailability or some metabolic reasons. So these are the things which are add-ons to over there. So as and when you come across, you need to change your approach to that one. But we cannot have a blanket statement making that for generally you start using for everyone.
Right, sir. So then there is a suggestion from one of the dietitians that could we have an exchange list for soluble fiber and insoluble dietary fiber for different food items, since for certain clinical conditions, we need to give high amount of soluble fiber and,
As I said, preparing action list is itself is an experiment. So however, like if you want, you can have almost all nutrients.
Right.
That's what it's not going to be an easy task for anyone to make an exchange list for all the other nutrients. Suppose soluble, insoluble fibers. I have seen some students have already made that one. Yes, the only thing is how accurate we are, that is more concerned. Maybe not only the soluble and insoluble fibers, we need to have even the zinc values. Thereafter, you should be having omega-3 and omega-6 values as well. In the coming few months or years, these are the, maybe zinc might take some time, but omega-3 and omega-6 is already the need of the hour. For every diet plan, you need to have omega-3, omega-6 values being calculated as you calculate protein and calories and carbs. Because the inflammation is the thing where everywhere it is being spoken about. So even if you are going to plan for an obese patient or any disease patient, inflammation is there. And if you're not going to consider omega-3, your diet has no value over there. So
Right.
I would say soluble, insoluble fibers are equally important. Even omega-3 and omega-6 values are also equally important.
And also, is there any possibility of having any exchange list for various supplements per serving? Because there are certain clinical conditions which demands for usage of supplements. I know it is difficult because working on these food items is only taking so much of time. But is there any possibility in future for having any exchange list for supplements?
Supplements of nutritional products or nutrient products,
For
like
nutrition.
bicosfuels or some nutrient like the calciums, vitamin D. If they're, because the supplementation can be a single nutrient or supplementation can be a whole nutrition as well. Like you get a protein powders with all other nutrients as well. So the question is slightly dicey over here. But what I would like to answer here, unless until you are deficient in any particular nutrient, no need of supplementation. And if you are deficient, try to see that what is your average consumption of that particular nutrient, and maybe reduce further by 50% of their bioavailability, because you're already deficient. It means there may be something wrong with the metabolism and the absorption part. So remaining 50% you can supplement for yourself. So for example, requirement is 20 grams of any particular nutrient, but your consumption is only 10 grams. And out of 10 grams, 5 grams is the absorption capacity. This is, you can only assume. We don't have any other means to really come out with a perfect value. So your supplementation has to be 15 grams.
Correct.
So you don't have to really go on supplementing yourself with 20 grams and get into a situation where toxic effects can come out. Now coming to the nutritional supplement, nutritional product supplements, the whole nutrition I'm talking about. So it depends upon your the macronutrient consumption, how shortfall it is, and for what purpose you are using. If someone is visiting, going to a gym and trying to build up the muscles, the supplementation differs over there. And someone who is only because no one is at home to prepare food, the person is getting food from outside sources, and there if you are looking out for a supplementation, then the requirement differs over there. So supplementation is generically very difficult to make a comment on that one. Seeing what specific condition supplementation you are doing, accordingly you can do so.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And sir, can we use this exchange list for a person who is into sports, who is actively involved in sports, or is there any separate exchange list that we should be following?
No, this section list can be used for anyone. To be very frank, diabetic,
Yes.
renal, sports person, or a person visiting the gym, because it is going to give you even the micronutrients are also how much it is being consumed. Now, someone who is going to be trying to build muscles, where your zinc requirement, magnesium requirements goes high, where it is not being considered, and even the selenium to a certain extent. So there you need to have an exchange list. Then at least you should be consuming this much of amount of supplementation, because the protein supplements, what they consume, how much of these micronutrients contain, that needs to be evaluated, and the food consumed at home needs to be evaluated. Then the supplementation has to be done. Random supplementation should not be done, as recently we are hearing so many things about the random supplementations and their adverse effects.
Right, sir. So, sir, with that, we've come to the end of the question answer session. In case if we have missed out any questions by the participants, we'll mail you so that you could get back and we could mail the answers back to the participants. Now, I take this opportunity, sir, to thank you. It was wonderful listening to your session. Thank you once again for sparing your valuable time on a Saturday evening. I would now like to invite Dr. Anuradha Shekhar ma'am to announce the winners for the much awaited content creation contest.
So on the occasion of National Nutrition Month, our chapter organized an interesting contest wherein participants were asked to create content on fruits and vegetables for our social media handles. We received more than 100 entries, and we invited eminent judges. The current and the past conveners of all NSI chapters and other senior nutritionists were our judges. So among them, we would love to thank all these eminent judges, Dr. Pulkit Mathur, Dr. Shekhar Naik, Dr. Anu Joseph, Dr. Sharifa Talha, Dr. Sunita Malhotra, Dr. Tirumani Devi, Dr. Sheetal Gupta, and my mentor, Dr. Shubha Lakshmi, and Dr. Padmini Gugre. We again would like to thank you for taking your valuable time and going through the number of contents that these students have created. And finally, these content creators, things were judged by Dr. Subba Rao, who is the head of Nutrition, Communication and Health Education, National Institute of Nutrition, ICMR, to decide the winners. So we again thank Dr. Subba Rao for doing the honors and selecting the best 3 content creators. And the winners are, so we have first Miss Michelle Brito, and Miss Mahima Bhanushali comes second, and Miss Hiral Patel comes third. We congratulate all these 3 winners and all the other girls who have given us such brilliant content on various fruits and vegetables. And since it's the year of fruits and vegetables, I am very happy for your participation. I like the enthusiasm you showed towards this particular project. Thank you very much. And on behalf of NSI, congratulations to all of you and to all our judges. Thank you very, very much for doing the honors. I now pass the baton to Tasneem.
So now we have come to the end of the session today. Before I propose the vote of thanks, I would like to inform the participants that the next webinar session is scheduled on the 13th of November and 20th of November on food and mood, diet in prevention and treatment of mental health disorders by our expert, Dr. Tetiana Rocks. Stay connected through our social media handles, that is Nutrition Society of India Mumbai chapter, on Facebook, Instagram, to get further details. To avail NSI membership, dear participants, kindly refer to www.nutritionsocietyindia.com. I request the participants to fill in the feedback form, which is compulsory to get the participation certificate. The links have been mailed to you all along with the Zoom link. Participation certificates will be sent by 15th of November 2021. Please do not write to us before 15th for participation certificate. Now, on behalf of NSI Mumbai chapter, I, Ms. Tasneem Rawat, would like to wholeheartedly thank our expert, Mr. Shiv Shankar sir, for accepting our invitation and delivering a wonderful talk. My heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Shubhadra Mandalika ma'am, convener of NSI Mumbai chapter, for giving me the opportunity to moderate the session. Thank you, Dr. Anuradha Shekhar ma'am, for being the co-moderator for the session, and Dr. Neha Joshi, Dr. Neha Sanwalka, Ms. Chandni Chopra, and Harshi Shah for hosting and organizing the session. I would also like to thank all the participants in this webinar series for showing your presence. I would like to now invite Ms. Harshi Shah to share her experience of being a part of the social media team. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Harshi Shah. I am a life member of Nutrition Society of India. So firstly, I would like to say what are the benefits of becoming a member of NSI. Various international and national webinars have been attended or organized by us. So you get a beneficial of free of attending those webinars or at minimum cost as compared to non-NSI members. We have organized webinars such as qualitative research in public health, now today's webinars, upcoming webinars, even skill in nutritional research series. Second, we also get a beneficial because NSI is publishing books nowadays. So being a life member or a member of NSI, we get part to be as a contributor in those publications. So recently we have published like indigenous nutritional recipes, then nutritional training manual, and we are also coming up with few more nutritional publications in coming month. Then now recently, being an active member, I also got an opportunity to be a part of an SM media team of NSI. So all these things help us to also be add on to our CV, which will be very beneficial for us. So I will ask other people also to join us. It's a very good opportunity for us to be a part of NSI. Thank you. Now, I would like to Tasneem ma'am to continue with this webinar.
Um, I would humbly request the participants to fill in the feedback form, which is compulsory to get the participation certificates. The link has been mailed to you all along with the Zoom link, and the participation certificates will be sent to everyone by 15th of November 2021. So thank you, dear participants, for joining us, and we shall see you all again in November. Thank you once again. Have a lovely evening. Thank you.